1. And we are live. What's up, everyone? What's going on in the chat? Welcome back to another episode of Learning Quick. Super excited to have Scott Tolinski on. Obviously, I've watched a ton of your content. We've gotten to talk about a few different things in the past. I've gotten to work with Level Up to Tuts a little bit in the past. Anyway, for just in case there's people in the chat who have never seen you, met you, talked to you, know what you do. Do you want to give people a little bit of an introduction to the stuff that you do?
Yeah. So my name is Scott Tolinski. I'm a developer. I'm currently living in Denver, Colorado, and raise up Denver. What's up? um, I created Level Up tutorials in 2012 with a good friend of mine, and then turned it full time into my full time gig in 2015 ish, maybe.
Okay. Wow.
2016, and we started syntax.fm, which is a podcast I do with Wes Boss. And we started that podcast in 2017, I think. And it's been a very, very popular podcast that we've done. And so it's just for me, I've been recording tutorials nonstop, talking into a microphone forever now. I did like 1,000 free tutorials on YouTube before I started charging for them or anything. And now I do a new tutorial course every month on Level Up Tutorials. So each month we take a topic, to hash out over the course of 24 videos, and it's like a magazine subscription. So you subscribe, you get a new one each month.
And I can vouch from the consumer perspective on Level Up Tuts. Several things that I had watched and was lucky enough I don't know if it's lucky. It was a cool opportunity, I guess is what I'm saying, but to create a course on Level Up Tuts with React and building a quiz app. And that's been over a year and a half maybe now. And
Yeah,
you
it's been a
mentioned,
while.
syntax has been around since 2017. Is that real?
Yes.
That seems unbelievable. I
Yeah. I can
cannot imagine it's been that long.
to 2017. Actually, it might have been 2017. Definitively.
Now that's the final
Because
answer.
Yeah, because we started it right after my son was born. My son was born in May of 2017, and we started it in July of 2017. So,
Wow.
but we had the idea since 2016, and we just sat on it and didn't do anything.
Finally executed on it. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite podcasts. So people that are interested, if maybe have not seen or heard of those, Level Up Tuts and Syntax links are both in the chat. Scott, I don't know if you noticed, but also my lights magically turned on. Did you catch that?
I didn't.
So these are rewards in Twitch. So if anybody wants to, Chris, maybe since you did it the first time, if you maybe will send another random color through, it's one of the things that I think is pretty cool about the stream. Also, there is a guest command. So I don't have a links command, but I have a guest command that'll give you Scott on Twitter if you want to find that. And then, Scott, do you see the Christmas lights now?
Yeah, that's neat.
And I don't think you'll hear it, but there's a little sound effect that goes along with it. It's a little like kind of mechanical light switch thing, and then turns it on.
Is that like Philips Hue? Is that what it's doing? Or cool.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, like hacking around and figuring out ways to use those over the past 6 months or so.
Philips Hue inside of here, but unfortunately, it's not devved up. It's not super devved.
Do you have the app on your phone? Is that what you're looking at?
I do. Yeah, we can do a Savannah sunset or an Arctic something. You can't really tell because it's the light above me, but
okay, gotcha.
I don't know if you know too much about like lighting for like movie production or something like that, but in the past people would have used like gels to get certain lights. So like for me, I use it sort of like you would use a gel, where they used to put like cellophane essentially over the light to get just a slight tinge to the color.
Yeah.
So I kind of use it just to pepper it a little bit.
Yeah. It's I feel like that's a whole, everything about recording content in general is a rabbit hole for like everything involved.
It's a rabbit hole.
And we were talking about beforehand, like a streaming PC is something that I'm thinking about getting, or the new Mac. What did you call it? Mac M1.
It's a Mac Pro.
Okay.
So it's going to be the follow-up to the big cheese grater Mac Pro. But I think they're going to, from what I've read, they're coming out with two of them. One that's like going to be the cheese grater one part 2, and one that's going to be more reminiscent of the, I don't know what it used to be called before. It was called the Mac Pro. I don't know why I'm blanking on that. The whatever the G4, but it was the G4 Cube, and it was this like clear plastic and gray literal cube, and it was the coolest thing ever, but it was like the limited edition thing, and I think they're remaking it essentially in metal
with
to be
this
the new
one.
Mac Pro
Okay.
with the M1s. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
I'll
M2
definitely.
or whatever.
Okay, I'll definitely have to keep an eye out for that because I've got to get something more powerful.
Hmm.
By the way, you've got some support in the chat
Hey.
from Chaos says that they listen to the podcast, which is great. Currently listen to the TypeScript Fundamentals one. I listened to that a few weeks ago, actually. Then we got some cool people. Arpan, Chris Ellis, Colby Fayak is in the chat. And Taylor Johnson has a question for you. How is the snow today? Is there snow in
So
Denver right now?
yeah, we got dumped on the other day. Like, it was only supposed to be a couple inches, and we like went outside in the morning and it was like over a foot. And so the thing about Denver is that it's extremely sunny. We get like 300 plus days of sun here a year. So even though we get a ton of snow, the sidewalks and the roads all burn off real quick.
Gotcha.
So right now it is very super sunny, but we have mounds of snow everywhere in our backyard. And yesterday, my son and I took the sled out back, and we had this little thing. We built a giant ramp. So we've been cruising in the snow yesterday.
That's
we got
great.
to do some skiing in the backyard because
Nice.
he's only 3, and he didn't want to drive all the way out to the mountains to teach
Just
him how to ski
yeah.
for 3 years
Yep.
old. So we put on some little skis and spent about 20 minutes just going down the hill in the backyard. And it was a
Wow,
lot of
that's
fun.
great. That's cool.
Yeah.
We so in Memphis we never get snow. I mean, we get snow once a year. It's never below freezing enough. So I mean, it's like gone.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't even stick most of the time. If it sticks, it maybe is around the next morning and then it's gone by the afternoon. So we just had a record for the most days under below freezing and had snow on the ground for like a week straight. This, I mean, I can't tell you how big of a deal this is. So we went, like I've got 3 young nephews, so we went every day and went sledding and going down the hills in our neighborhood and stuff. So yeah, I definitely was in love with that. And then Brad Garapi in the chat is in Texas, and they got a ton of snow too, which is not super normal. So everybody get to enjoy in all of the snow that was going on.
Yeah, we've hardly had any this year. It's not. People think of like Colorado as being like super cold, but it's really not. It's just super sunny.
And then the mountains, I guess, being the difference, because that's like some people in the chat know. I went a few weeks ago, like I mentioned to you earlier. I didn't realize. I would have thought that like Denver would still be super snowy too, but it really, like, the difference between the mountains and Denver itself is like a pretty big difference. It's not the same at all.
Yeah, and being the elevation we are, the sun's pretty intense. But like even coming from, I'm from Michigan originally. In Michigan, the snow would stick around forever. Here, the snow doesn't stick around. So if you do get a lot of snow, it doesn't stick around. And by all means, it's not like we don't get snow because it snows here. But as somebody who's used to like snow and no sun from November to April, it's like way different here.
Not what it is.
But I've gone into the mountains on like in March, where I'd be walking out to my car in a t-shirt and basically pants, and then drive into the mountains, and then you pass through the Eisenhower Tunnel, which is this really long tunnel, and you pop out on the other side, and all of a sudden there's snow.
It's good, yeah.
And it's like a different world. It's so weird.
That's basically, I think, would that be the same one that's on the way to Vail? I think we went through that same one. Yeah.
The long tunnel.
Yeah.
We've gone through at least 2. The very long one would have been the Eisenhower.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, we were a little nervous on that trip because it was snowy, a little icy, and we did not have an SUV or 4-wheel drive or anything. So.
Yeah. There's a reason why everybody has a Subaru out here. It's
We noticed lots of Subarus.
Yeah, I have like loaded up with super nice snow tires, but one time I was driving out to Vail specifically at like 6 a.m, and it was snowing like crazy, and we were about at the Eisenhower Tunnel, and we passed this guy in a Porsche, like white knuckling it, and it's just
gosh, yeah.
just like, oh my god, what are you doing? why are you taking this car on this road?
We maybe were a little bit better off than that, but not by much. Nate Frosty says snowing there in Victoria, BC in Canada 2 weeks ago was wild. I bet. Yeah, it was fun down here. Now we're back to like 60, so I've been outside playing basketball and stuff in my breaks. So topic today is hot new tech, and this conversation is not rehearsed. We could go a lot of different ways. If people have questions, throw them in the chat, and maybe there's a good one to start off with. A question from Brad, and Brad Garapi was on that live episode that you did, the 300th one.
Yeah,
Scott, I don't know if you remember.
Oh yeah, no, I'm very familiar with Brad.
Cool. He's in the Discord and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you know the whole deal. he asked Scott if we're ready to talk about hot new tech. So he's pushing the envelope here. I like it. Is there a TSDX for Node libs? And I have no idea what that is. Do you know what that is?
TSDX is a package created by Jared Palmer of Formic Notability. So Formic, really great library. So he created TSDX, which is basically like the starter kit for creating React libraries. It includes like an examples, create React app that's all linked up. It has some CI pipeline stuff in it, and it's all TypeScript focused. So if you're looking to publish a React library and you would like to do so in TypeScript, there's really no better option to do so other than TSDX.
Yeah.
I've used it like 4 or 5 times now, and every single time it's joy. So is there anything for Node? For Node, I would just probably just straight up publish as a module and let the bundler, if I use one, figure it out. I don't know. For Node, for me, in the past, I've always ran things through a bundler, and more recently, I've just been doing straight up Node. So I'm not sure. I don't know if anything like that. I would probably just use either just straight up TypeScript, create Node package. No, I don't know. I would probably have to look around for that. Yeah, the nice thing about TSDX is that you it takes all the guesswork out of publishing modules and CommonJS or any of that. You don't have to think about it, right? Where like in the past, you might have to like make sure you're publishing to the right ways that everybody can use the package in the way they want to use it.
Okay. Yeah, that's a new. I just pulled up the site and dropped a link in the chat for anybody that's curious. I have not done any of that stuff. Brad has actually been an inspiration for me personally of him publishing just npm packages for stuff that he's done. So the Hue lights, the way I'm interacting with them is from his SDK. And I published a few things as well, one of which I will show off at the end of this. Hint, stick around for a giveaway. Some people in the chat might recognize it. We've done it before. So yeah. Let's see. Arpan is asking, Scott, I know you are on the ESM goodness and know you use Snowpack, which I would love as part of this answer, maybe. Could you give a little bit of a explanation for what Snowpack is? And the last part of the question is, have you tried Vite before? If so, any thoughts? Another one I've never heard of.
Vite is actually pronounced Vit, believe it or not, which is something I found out only because there was it was very funny. Somebody had posted something about a pronunciation of something. I forget what it is, but it was a word that was kind of like Vite. And they said, believe it or not, the pronunciation for this is something Vit. And I was like, oh, I wonder if, because Evan Yu, creator of Vue, created Vit. I was like, I wonder if Vit is supposed to be pronounced Vit. And he replied like, yeah, it is.
Obviously.
Oops. So yeah, but I was saying Vite or Vite or any of that stuff too. I was saying it over and over again. I said it like 8 times on Syntax. So Vite and Snowpack are very similar projects. They're both basically doing the same thing. Where in the past you've had whether it's Webpack or Rollup or any of these things that you're using to bundle and serve your site. The whole bundler and server aspect of a front end side, create React app, you could think of replaces, something like that. And so if I was going to be starting a Snowpack site, I would think about it as the replacement for either Gatsby or probably Next.js, even though they're not really analogous, but create React app is the most comparable, right? For both Vite and Snowpack. You can use them with Svelte, Vue, React, doesn't matter. And so these things are really ESM first, ESM focused, ECMAScript modules. And we've been using import syntax for so long, we might not realize that ESM and the import syntax are not necessarily, I mean, they are, the import syntax is the syntax of ESM, but like ESM in general is going to load each package as a network request to the point where you can see those network requests in your network tab each time it loads a JavaScript file. So instead of bundling everything, it's just loading a single file whenever you need it. The reason why Snowpack, and I can't speak too much on Vite because I don't know the internals. All I know is it's very similar and very good. But Snowpack, what it does is it uses a tool called esbuild to compile your singular file that you're changing, the one file that you've changed, just compile that one single file. And it does so extremely quickly because esbuild is extremely quick. So you're getting like 50 milliseconds that file is compiled, one single file, and then that file is thrown up into the site inserted via hot reloading and a new network request, meaning that you can get the fastest hot reloads you've ever seen without losing React state. Like your state is persistent without anything, just basically out of the box. It's really crazy. Like, let's say a good example would be like if I was editing the file of like the header for level up tutorials and I changed the text of the about link to be just, Scott, it would change that text in 50 milliseconds without losing whether or not the nav was open or this was, it is crazy fast. So that's why we like it and use it. Personally, it's really like, I can't go back to other tools at this point. It's going to be Vite or Snowpack or anything that refreshes that fast. Because once you get a taste of that 50 millisecond hot reloading, you're just like,
you can't go back.
Have it. Yeah.
There's I watched just kind of for my refresher. I listened to that episode of Syntax where you talked about the updates to the Level Up Tuts course, and then I saw that you did a video on YouTube as well. And in your video, to quote you, you're like, ESM is the truth.
It's the truth.
It's the truth, like hands down. That's what it's all about.
we had, for those of you who don't know, our site's been on Meteor for a long time, and Meteor is fantastic. They just released version 2, which is tree shaking and a bunch of like stuff that people have been wanting in Meteor for a little while. But we weren't using Meteor, and we were paying the cost of using Meteor. Like the build times were a little bit slower. We have a lot of heaviness that we weren't loading. It's just stuff that we weren't using, right?
Yep.
Like if I was using the real-time stuff or I was using the Meteor stuff, I would have stayed on Meteor, but I'm not using it. So we started looking for new tools. And once we started to build out this alternate universe branch where it's not on Meteor anymore, and I had to make all these decisions about what to use when, but once I had a good flow going of Snowpack on the front end and esbuild for the API, once I had that going, I was like, I don't care if this takes me, a billion hours. I'm going to stay up every night to finish this because this is the only environment I would like to work in from now on. It was that like fast and that good. It was just, I don't know, it was transformative, essentially. Yeah.
I remember you kind of referencing that too. You were like, when that branch was there, it was like, it's this. We're not going back. I'm not giving up on this.
It's too good. Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's really cool. Funny comment, excuse me, from Debbie O'Brien, if you know her, working for Nuxt. She said that she's got, what did she say? She's got you up on 2 screens here and on the Vue.js conf for the documentary that you're in, apparently. So she's got you up on 2 screens. What better compliment than that?
She and I actually spoke at the same online conference. I'm trying to remember which one it was. If you remember, please post it in the chat. But she and I spoke at the same conference, so I got to listen to one of her talks. She's fantastic.
Nice.
That documentary is done by Honeypot, honeypot.io, I believe, and they just do the best work. Hosea, who came out, he just came out to the house and recorded it all in like a day or two. We did one on just me personally. He did that, the Vue one, and they're just the coolest company.
They reached out a long time ago, not to be in a video, although that would be cool. But I wrote a small article for them back in the day when they were trying to, I say back in the day, it was like a year ago or something, when they were trying to get some more articles on their platform. Debbie also mentioned that they just added Vite. I'll try to make sure I get that right. Support for Nuxt too. She's got a link in the chat to that on GitHub as well.
Yeah.
JS Shore is asking, Scott has been building CLIs to replace NPM scripts. Do you do anything to bundle these? And then Brad and him were kind of talking back and forth about some of those details.
Yeah, I use esbuild for that. So I've been getting really into writing my own CLIs and my own scripts, and I'm doing so in TypeScript. What's nice about esbuild, which is written in Go, esbuild is a builder for JavaScript. It's written in Go, but you can import it just as a node binary. So npm install esbuild, and then you can use it in a TS file or a JS file, well, inside of a JS file to say, esbuild.watch or whatever. And so I have all of my CLI being built with that, and it just compiles it down into a single node file. And then I just run node avalanche, which is the name of the platform that I gave it. So I just run node avalanche, and it pops open my CLI, and my CLI gives me a little wizard hat, and then it says
Yeah.
like choose your own adventure. Just for like I wanted to make it kind of fun, just kind of goofy. And we do all sorts of cool stuff from there. From like, if I want to update the dependencies across the entire site, API, UI, whatever, I just do it through there. We do a lot of really neat GraphQL code generation stuff that I do through there, or I can run the API, run the site, or run both with a proxy in front of it, a reverse proxy and an SSL certificate. So we do all local dev with SSL and everything using Caddy server. Man, a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. And these are like, for what it's worth, these are so many names that I don't know at all. And I'm like, I feel like, I don't know. I'm just like listening to it all. I'm trying to take it in. But things that
Yeah.
I just haven't used before. It's kind of amazing, as much as I would consider myself to be like on top of stuff, and like that's relative. But then I get into a conversation like this, and I'm like, dang, that's a lot of stuff that I've just never even heard of or used.
I hadn't heard of most of it, except for like with the exception of Snowpack, because we had Fred on, Fred K. Scott, who did Snowpack. We had him on Syntax before. So, but a lot of it, like I had never heard of esbuild until I got into Snowpack because they use it. And then this Caddy server is a Go server that's been around for a while, because Wes said he had like a sticker of it from like years ago. This created by Brian Holt, who's actually going to be on Syntax.
Cool.
We're recording his episode on. Wait, did I say Brian Holt? Why did I just say Brian Holt? Sorry, it's not him. I sorry, Brian. Attributing that Matt Holt. That's why.
Okay.
I knew it was a Holt. So Matt Holt, who's going to be on Syntax next week. Sorry, Matt. Sorry, Brian. But that's a really neat project, because I was talking about the pains of needing SSL certificates for local development. Our authentication system uses secure
requires
HTTP only cookies, and so because of that, Safari will throw a hissy fit and not let you log in on local development. So I needed a domain, and I just tweeted about the pains of it. I was generating my own certificates, and it was a giant pain. And Matt was like, "Why don't you try Caddy?" And I was like, "I don't want to take time to learn something like this, new config files and all this stuff." He was like, "It will take you seconds. Here, just drop this in." And I was like, oh, "Okay, let's see what this is about." And it literally took me seconds. The config file is like 5 lines long, and I run Caddy run, and it gets us a reverse proxy to our local host, and then generates the SSL certificates. The browser doesn't care; it thinks it's all legit. So
that's neat. Yeah, I came into an issue like that. I was doing some integration work with Auth0 and Netlify functions, and they're not their identity stuff, but they're RBAC, their role-based access control. So I actually set a flag, I think, in development for the cookie to not have to be secure. Is that what it is? I forget. There's two flags. One is secure and one is
HTTP only.
That one, yeah. Secure means that JavaScript can't get to it, I think, right? I always get them confused.
Secure no, that's the HTTP only means that it's only accessible via the server. So you can only set or remove or access the cookie with HTTP only on the server.
Gotcha.
And secure, it just means that the whole thing's taking place over a SSL.
That's what, there you go.
Yeah.
As I said, I get those confused every time.
Oh, yeah. So I should say the course that I'm releasing on Monday is Node I'm trying to check today. Node Fundamentals Authentication, where we literally build that exact thing. So it's like for me, like my head's just been like totally wrapped in that zone.
Yeah, that's great. I'll definitely check that one out. I especially like from a work perspective at Auth0, like becoming more aware of how other people look at authentication and what they use is super beneficial for me. I'll definitely check that one out.
And for the course, even if you're not like interested in rolling your own, because that's a whole thing, right? Rolling your own authentication.
Yep.
But for me, I never necessarily knew the ins and outs of the hashing, those aspects, the hashing and salting and the algorithms there, and even the HTTP only cookie stuff, because we always had just done it the way Meteor had done it, or whether it's storing it in local storage or whatever, passing it through a header. the HTTP only cookie has seemed to be a little bit better and easier of a thing overall for us, especially with our API, the way it all works. So, yeah, I got really deep in that. We that was a big hurdle for us moving off of Meteor, because one of the things that we did use of Meteor was your whole auth system,
Yeah.
which was just baked in, zero config, just drop in some HTML essentially. But when we moved off of it, we moved to something called accounts.js, which is a package that some ex-Meteor folks had written to do exactly that transition. And I'd used that for a little bit, but we were feeling the pains of using a package that was designed for a lot of systems.
Mm.
And, like when you have a package like that, that can be used with a REST, a GraphQL, it can be used with React or whatever. It can be used with Mongo or Post. Like when you have so many configuration options, the moment you run into anything that's very specific, you got to dive into 800 packages and
Yeah.
everything's config. So it's just like, what would it take for me to just write this from scratch? And I used kind of theirs as a boilerplate, kind of Meteor stuff as a boilerplate, and I really dove in and I wrote our own auth system from scratch,
Oh, cool.
basically, and that's what we're rolling with now. So
That's great. And then I'm assuming that is what inspired the new course. Because after you do all that dev work, now you have a lot of learnings to share with people.
you bet.
Absolutely. Couple of comments just catching up in chat. Debbie did not remember the conference, but appreciated the kind words. Chris Tamar, Salt and Burnham here. Detroit native as well, says to tell you hi. Jay Ashore is redoing a build process in Node CLI to, I think, back to the building process. And then Arpan has a question, and this one's new for me. Is there any reason, or what reason specifically, are you using Fastify for the backend for Level Up Tuts? Fastify is something I've heard of, but I know almost nothing about. Like, is it targeted at like static sites and serverless functions?
No.
Okay.
So Fastify is the most analogous thing to Fastify is Express. It's basically an alternative to Express. So if you need a Node HTTP server, that's what Fastify does. Now, Fastify is really super fast, given its name, obviously, and its logo of like a panther or something. It's a fast thing. So they say it's a fast, low overhead web framework. And what's really nice is that you might think with something like this, it's not Express. The community might not be as large, but when you get into it, Mateo, who is the lead maintainer of Fastify, just has done an insane amount of work on this thing. And there's a ton of packages for it. So we use our GraphQL server now, uses Fastify, and instead of Apollo server, which is what we came from, we're using Mercurius, which is the Fastify Apollo server, and it is way fast. We were seeing some major perf gains from it. So I like Fastify. It's really easy to pick up, and that's actually what we use in our latest course. Because to me, if you're choosing between this and Express, the only reason that you'd pick Express might be for the community. But if you're comparing the two projects, I would say I like Fastify working a little bit more. There's a lot of neat stuff for it, and there's a big ecosystem, and the community is surprisingly huge. So if you, I'll post the ecosystem link in the chat, but like you can just like look through the plugins for it, and there's a ton of stuff here. But yeah, that's what it is. It's a replacement for Express, because of Meteor was using their own thing, which was actually Connect. I don't know if you're familiar with Connect. Connect was the precursor to Express. Express was originally built off Connect.
Okay.
Meteor was originally built off Connect. So like we were basically using Express, just Meteor's version of Express. But tried out Fastify, and I really loved it. It's like when you're ripping out everything and knocking the house down, you might as well like make sure you have the best materials to build the new house with,
That's great. Yeah, I think I was thinking of something else that was not at all what I was expecting, which is why
Yeah.
these conversations are great.
Totally. And I had never heard of Fastify until fairly recently. A lot of the stuff, like a lot of the stuff I only found out about because I'm doing the deep dive on like what are the coolest things I could possibly use that are still a smart decision. Like let's not just pick some package with 5 stars that no one's ever heard of or whatever. Like this has to be a good decision to move forward. We don't want to get in a situation where we're just stuck on something for who knows how long and whatever. So
yeah, that's a great way to experiment, to learn, and then especially from your perspective, like it just drives so much content, right? Like now your course content can come from all the hours that you've already put in.
Yeah,
Because by the time I imagine you go to like start to create a course and record a course, you've got a pretty good amount of experience with that thing. You're not you're not just learning it on the fly.
totally. And when we did our authentication course, I basically used, well, one, it was a really great opportunity for a couple of reasons. I had the entire course outline sitting there in our own code platform. I've been using it for a couple months now. So I've already uncovered so many little things here and there, tips and tricks. But uh, I had that as a template. But when you sit down with a template of code that you've already written once, and then you go to try to teach it, it's basically an opportunity to have a whole fresh new set of eyes and do almost like a refactor for me writing from scratch.
Yep.
So I was able to write the code for the course and then attribute some of that code back into the level
Mm-hmm.
up code base because it was done from a place of like a more organized and structured
Yep.
approach to it rather than just like, let me try this, you know?
I love it. Yeah, one of my philosophies, and it's also the name of the Discord server that I run, is learn, build, teach. So you spend
Mhm.
time learning stuff, you use what you learn to build stuff, and you teach other people how to do it to help them, but also to help reinforce. Because there's no better way to either learn something or learn something better than to be able to teach it to other people. So
Totally.
all the courses, all the videos, talking about it on podcasts, talking about it on streams, all that stuff helps reinforce the stuff um, that you already know, or it helps you realize some of the gaps of things that you thought you knew, and when you go to explain it, you're like, maybe I don't know that as well as I thought I did.
Yeah, that was, I mean, that was the inception of Level Up Tutorials was, um, I'd sit all day at work doing this thing and there was no content on it, Drupal stuff. There wasn't a ton of content on Drupal, or at least for free on YouTube. And I was doing it all day. So I'd come home. It's like, here's the thing I just learned. Let me just
Yeah,
recount how to do it. And like, that's how I've always done my tutorials. And I totally agree. It's like, once you reach a certain point with some technologies or some things that you learned like 2 years ago, it's harder to teach them because you forget all of the pain points that you hit when you were learning it yourself. And like just really struggling through some of those pain points is really the easiest way to really figure out what everybody's going to hit, because people they get tripped up on all sorts of things. I myself, I'm not a super like a focused reader. So if I'm reading the documentation, I might miss a sentence that explains perfectly the thing I'm going to mess up on, but other people might too. So to be able to call those things out explicitly and say, here explicitly,
yeah,
this is what this is and why it's doing it. I remember like the first time I did a Meteor tutorial, I was like, and so we have this method that all we have to do is pass in a JavaScript object and blah blah blah. And some people get so lost in the magic of some of this stuff, they'll be like, oh, I didn't even think about that. This was just an object that I could put anything in. I was thinking it was something special.
yeah,
I'm like, no, it's not. It's nothing special. It's just an object, right? But being able to call those things out as a way that like maybe you would have hit them in the past is the best way to
yeah.
teach.
I do that a lot too, because I will see, like, you see instructions on how to get started, and sometimes it's just like, well, why? How does that thing work? Like, I think they miss some of the why and how in
Yeah.
some instructions, because they're like, oh, just put this thing here. And it's like I understand there's magic going on, but I want to at
Mhm.
least conceptually understand like what is actually going on and why am I doing this thing? That for me, if I can understand that, then doing it again next time is that much easier.
Totally.
Um, a question. So, Scott, do you remember when we started the stream and I told you there was this weird echo? I think that maybe that has been going through, and because someone's comment on it that they are hearing the stream very faintly with a delay. I don't know how this is happening, and I was
How
looking at
is
some
that
of the audio
happening?
settings. Is that still happening? Because I'm asking the chat, because I,
Yeah.
like, when I heard it earlier, I didn't hear it after a few seconds, and I was like, I literally thought there was a ghost in my ear. It was freaking
So
me out.
weird.
Debbie says it's good. Don't hear it now. I can't hear. Okay, there's one thing I changed, so I will keep that in mind for future streams. But if you hear any ghosts, just know it's hopefully just us talking. um, by the way, shout out to Holly Lolly is on our team at All Zero, is still out. So I haven't gotten to talk to her in Slack or anything for a while, but she's checking into the stream, which is super cool. Holly, how's it going? Thanks for hanging out. Chris DeMars also said that he texted you, I think, about
Oh, I got it.
yeah, he got it, Chris. What was, a couple of comments on, and thank you people for confirming the audio is good now. Um, on the testing side, so you've got a Cypress course that came out recently. This is not something, again, I have much experience with at all, but
Mm,
I think you mentioned in the Syntax podcast that you ripped out all unit tests and
yes.
then went with all end-to-end testing with Cypress. How has that been? What went into that decision?
So there's a lot there. Like, man, so our testing situation, like many other people's, has never been like dialed in. And like every single time that we get it to a point where um things feel okay, like something weird comes up. So to give you some context here, we were using, well, we still do use Jest for our unit tests on the back end for our API. API is all unit tested with Jest still.
Okay.
But when we're starting to use like things like TypeScript without Babel, for instance, so we don't use Babel at all. We use Snowpack using esbuild, so no Babel. Um, and so when you start to do that, what you hit is a bunch of use cases where Just is really not super happy, or there isn't the tooling around Jest in the way that other people have used it, Jest Babel, whatever. To the point where we were just flat out writing so much config just to get our tests running. Like
Yeah.
provider after provider after provider and transpiling this, and we were getting to a situation where the code that we were testing, we were having to use in a way that wasn't even how the site was consuming the code. And I didn't feel comfortable, like I didn't feel like the test represented the code well, or like how the code was being used. So I started to think about it, and I was like, you know what, I'm only using React components in integration. I'm only using them together in the system. And like, if I have this mocked provider and all these mocked providers and everything's passing in whatever, like, man, I just don't trust that as being like how the site's being utilized. And so we had Cypress tests in the site already, but it wasn't our primary means of testing. It was just like we had written some tours that we call them. And the tours basically hit a page, make sure it loads, hit a page, make sure it loads. And so that was like a quick and easy way to just make sure no pages were erroring out. And those tests were using the real database, using the real API, not production development, using the real database, real everything. And it was going pretty slow. So I just decided, you know what, let's ditch Jest. Let's go all in on Cypress, and let's find some ways to make our Cypress tests even better. So I use a tool, and I'll have to look it up. It's like GraphQL. It's like a GraphQL mocking platform that uses something called MSW, which is Mock Service Worker. Mock Service Worker is
Hmm.
a seamless API mocking library that uses service workers.
Did you
So what
did you
happens
just
is
find the
I
description?
read,
Yeah.
yes, that too. Uh, and so when Kenzie Dodd sent me this, I initially was like, this is not for me, because their examples basically showed you rewriting your entire API like a second time just with mock data. I'm like, I'm not about to double my API code. Not about to do that. But I found this package that automatically mocks your GraphQL schema into a fully faked API. So
Hmm.
what we can do now with Cypress is test the entire site, whether that's mutations, queries, whatever. It's hitting the data, is whatever, and it's pulling in real mocked data, but it's only running the UI. It's never hitting a database, and it's never running the API at all. It's just the UI, and it does so everything through the network requests. So your browser really fires off a network request, but it uses a service worker to return a mocked data. So all I do is
Yeah.
pass in my schema, and
And it
this
does
thing
the
sends
rest.
back the mock data. And you get access to basically tweak and override the data at a micro level in any individual test. If I want to, like, if I want to get a user, I just say, oh yeah, override that the user is now a pro, right? They now have a pro
Hmm.
subscription for this test. And then the site hits the API and it returns a user with, they have that access, they have that role level, and it's amazing. It's so good. So for me, our tests have gotten a lot more reliable. They've gotten a lot more real world. It's being tested in a browser, how the stuff's being used, and I'm loving the decision. Also, Cypress just released in like while I was recording my course, they released a new feature that allows you to interact with your site and it generates the test for you, or at least it generates
Oh, what?
the interaction stuff. So if I
Yeah.
were to fire up Cypress and basically click a record button, and then I could click the header, type in an input box,
Yeah.
go here, whatever, and then you tab back to the test. You see your test, CY click whatever, CY enter text, and you get all that code written for you, and then you can write your assertions into there
That's
to make it
cool.
just much easier. So for
Yeah.
me, like, I hate testing. Everybody hates testing. That me, all my homies hate testing, and
All my homies.
so for me, it's like it's the promised land.
That's great. That's super cool. I
Yeah, I'll post the package that I used for that because it's really neat.
I put a link. I found MSWJS is what I found. If that you can see
Yeah,
if that link is right.
yeah. So
Um,
that's right. But we also use this GraphQL one. I'll find right now.
oh, so that's a separate. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't have a ton of experience with testing. When I was at FedEx, and we were really kind of getting into testing, and that was the responsibility of having to mock stuff to do unit testing was literally enough of a challenge to. I mean, it's like you almost want a testing developer, right? Like a person who's just aware enough or has enough experience to be able to write those tests, because being able to just to set them up was really cumbersome. And that, like, people go back and forth on unit tests and their benefits, and there are I think like speed and isolation and those things are good, but it all comes down to like how do you actually use them pragmatically, and then how do they benefit you, and if you can get the benefit from the other stuff that you're doing, and that's great.
yeah, yeah. I know the amount. Like the thing I like the least about testing is just how much code you have to write
Yeah.
to test.
Yeah.
Like it's like almost writing everything twice, and I just don't love that. I got a little bit into Rust somewhat recently just for
Mm.
fun, just to expand my horizons a little bit, not for anything serious. And like one neat thing that I really like about Rust is that you can write your test. You do write your test like right at the bottom of the file of that
Hmm.
that same code. And I was like,
Interesting.
man, that's a really interesting approach to that
Yeah.
because it makes it everything's co-located. Okay, this just works the right way. Um, but I haven't used it enough to be like to reach the point where it's obnoxious or not,
Yeah. That's interesting. It's like kind of similar, I guess, to like some of the embedded style components if you don't create them in separate files, and then like Vue has that stuff kind of mixed in too.
Yeah,
And I think it just comes down to people's preference as they work with it.
totally.
Brad had another question. He said he noticed you've been doing more blogging and was
Mm,
wondering if he's looking to get into doing more content. I've been begging him to do more YouTube videos because all the things he does, I'm like, oh, I want to know how to do that, but I don't want to have to watch the full stream after. So if you
yeah.
could give me, I mean, this is selfish, but if you could give me like the 15-minute overview on YouTube, that would be fantastic. So he was wondering, as he's looking to start to do more stuff in general, do you have any recommendation on blog or YouTube, or is that come down to personal preference for you too?
I am not a good writer, just straight up.
I
So that's
struggle.
typically why I don't write too many blog posts. But we started the Level Up Tutorials like blog. We started it like 2 years ago. And like if you would have gone there at any given point, there was like maybe two posts. And it was just like, this is straight up embarrassing. Uh, like this is just straight up embarrassing. Not to mention, like, there's so many times when I Google something and a West Boss blog post pops up, and I'm just like, this guy,
Yeah,
he's got
damn
to
it,
figure it
Wes.
out, right? He's got to figure it out. Anytime he learns something, he just pops a quick blog post, it pops up on Google, and the next thing you know, I'm in Wes's site.
Yep.
So I was just thinking, like, hey, that's a really great idea. There's so many little itty bitty things that I pick up all the time that I'm just like, instead of making a video, or maybe even I could make it a video later, like let me just throw this into the site. Like for instance, the latest one is how to use the underscore underscore dir name with ESM, because um, in Node you get access to dir name just straight up, but in ESM that's just not available. And there's a really easy way to do it with some built-in Node packages. You don't have to uninstall anything. It's a four-liner, and it's just like, well, this was kind of hard for me to find. I had to Google. I had to go to
Yeah.
Stack Overflow. Just pop it in a blog post. Why not? Who cares? So I've been doing that recently. I don't. and I'm not doing it on any sort of regularity or any sort of schedule. I'm
Just when
not
it
great
comes
at
up.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Vlogs are tough for me. I've told myself over the past couple of years the same exact thing. Like, hey, you find something small, somebody else is going to need that thing. Just write it down. And it takes too, even the small things take too much time for me.
Here's a tip.
And yeah, what's up?
Here's a tip. Uh, what is it? The function key. Let me pop this up. This might be an accessibility thing you have to turn on. I might have changed this in my own keyboard. There's a Mac shortcut to double tap to just turn on dictation. And so I don't write my blog posts, I
You,
dictate them. So
yeah,
I'll just open a new file in VS Code, double
yeah.
tap the dictation button, and just talk and then just tweak it.
Okay. So
So
I've been thinking about doing that. And I've also thought about like taking my shorter YouTube videos and getting the transcriptions from Google
mm,
and doing it that way. But I think the dictation I think would be a lot better. So I've been thinking about doing that. Oh, here we're going down some hot tech
D
that people will be,
Descript.
yeah.
Yeah,
Chris Sev is
we're up
huge
on
into
Descript.
Descript, yeah, and Debbie is too. So you use that as well?
I haven't used it.
Okay,
It's in my doc. Well, I haven't used it in any real sense. I've
gotcha.
used it, but it's neat. Yeah, I think there are some things I would like to see about it. Like I would like to be able to edit not in Descript, but I don't know. I'm a stickler for editing, so
Just to make sure that you get it done exactly how you want it. Is that what you mean?
I'm really proficient at DaVinci Resolve at this point, and
Yeah,
like when I edit, it's like I'm playing the piano. Like I
yeah,
don't take my hands off. I'm just
yep.
and I cut things out and whatever, and it's yeah. So I like for me like that's the one reason I don't like ScreenFlow because ScreenFlow doesn't. It's not that ScreenFlow is okay and it crashes all the time and it's slow, but
It's
they
okay, but
also
it's the worst. Is basically
yeah
what you said.
they also don't have the keyboard. They don't have the ability to do the cut and trims the way that professional editing softwares do. So like
I'm
I like go back and
curious.
forth sometimes with ScreenFlow.
I'm curious what. So I have shortcuts to do in, out, and
Yep.
then cut that thing and move the play and move the stuff back. Is that
Yep.
not what you're talking about?
That's kind of what I'm talking
Okay.
about. So that is like maybe one step slower than what I do.
Mm.
So in DaVinci, I have C button is cut, and then the bracket is roll up. So instead of
Got
having
yeah.
to set in, out, delete,
Yep.
whatever,
You
cut,
just
roll,
start
cut,
and then
roll.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also like the up key goes back to the last cut. It holds shift up, goes to the start, shift down, goes to the end. Like there's a lot of little things like that that like ScreenFlow is about this close on. And if you tweet at them, they'll say, leave a customer
Yeah.
service thing. And it's like, no, you won't, because I left those like 8 years ago and you guys
And
still
it's
haven't had
still
any of that stuff. And it would be
there's
really simple, just
yeah.
really simple.
There's a couple things that kill me in ScreenFlow, and I think we've talked about this in on Twitter or something before. The reason I haven't moved away is just being able to record multiple feeds at the same time. Because you could do
Mm-hmm.
something in OBS, but if you do it in OBS, you have to know where it's gonna be, right? So like I would put our feeds where they are in the stream and then record that versus I want to record 2 raw feeds or 3 and then be able to splice those in however I want. That's the one big thing. And I done DaVinci Resolve for a while. That one you mentioned crashing. ScreenFlow's almost never crashed. DaVinci
Okay.
crashed for me several times, which
Well,
I
yeah.
was kind of surprised by.
Um,
But it
I
was
can
way
I can
faster.
I can give you a like not like a code script, but like a do this then this to get
And it'll
ScreenFlow to crash every time because it just happens to be something I do. If you click when
Okay.
like a certain time on the
Yeah.
playhead, it crashes every single time and it's done so for like 5 versions of it.
That's
I
hilarious.
but you're totally right because we talked about this with I Show You and
Mhm.
you're right. I thought that you could record 2 streams and have them output as 2 separate videos, and I must be totally tripping because I thought you could do that. And then, sure enough, I gave it a lot of tries and I couldn't figure it out. And that is the benefit of ScreenFlow is that you get those two clips. And one thing I really liked about ScreenFlow is being able to set up all the shortcuts. So I could just say, all right, full screen. Now do an animate to a little zoom in the corner. Now animate up here. You could have
So
all
you
that stuff set up, and it was really nice and easy. A little bit easier than what I do in
yeah.
DaVinci, but we actually just hired an editor. So
Oh,
I
cool.
am like
Hands
hoping to
off
move out of
now.
that role.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had an editor in the past, and then he went on to take a full time role, and I just man, quarantine has just zapped all of my
Yeah.
abilities to do anything. So I've just been editing myself like a, fiend, just like 2 days before the course is released.
I gotta go. Yeah.
Yeah, I cut it pretty
uh,
close, but that's the price I pay for getting
yeah.
super up to date content, right?
Well, there's the behind the scenes of Scott recording and editing his course.
Yes, exactly.
That's hilarious. Yeah, another thing I don't like about ScreenFlow is I can't access if I record those two feeds, I can't access those things directly to take them to somewhere else.
Yes.
Which if they gave me access to that, and I've looked in like the source files and it's
Yep.
not a raw MP4.
They have
Anyway,
their own file
yeah.
format. You could go to the yeah. I've gone down that same rabbit hole myself.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Chris Ev, I feel like we've talked about this too, is saying, I hate that you can't speed up playback while editing. I play everything at 2 times speed while I'm editing.
Yeah, me too.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious about that. You may just be saying, so one of the things it doesn't do, this freaking kills me, is it does all the audio waves. Hey, there's some lights. Does all the
Hey.
audio waves so you can see them, which is what I edit by because I look for dips and then I splice it out. If
Yes.
you splice something, it then gets rid of all of the subsequent audio. It makes no sense.
And
So
how long does
then
it take to regenerate? Like, you're
forever.
like, come
Yeah.
on, let's go.
So here's so this learning quick, one of the themes, and this is one of the questions that was on the forum is like, do you have something you'd like to rant about, like a hot topic for you to rant about? I feel like we just settled on one for each other. It's like nothing is perfect. I can't get exactly what I want anywhere.
Yeah, no kidding. There, oh man, I'm really upset that I'm blanking on this right now. But somebody just released a new tool that cuts out all the white space out of your videos. So if you have like a long white space, it will just cut it out. Which is
Isn't that
like,
decrypt? Doesn't it?
no, does it
It
do that as well? Because this is a tool that just does that. And so you would pass in a
um
video, and it would just trim out all your white space.
recut by Dave Sedia?
Yes, yeah, Chris is
But
on.
doesn't yeah, I
But do you
thought
have to?
decrypt. Debs
But
is
do you have
or
to do you
go
have to
ahead, sorry.
record and decrypt to do that?
Maybe. Yeah,
Because
someone
that's
else will
part
have
of
to answer that. Oh, Debbie's saying no.
okay. Well, yeah, I haven't checked that out yet. But
Either way,
yeah,
it's
who knows?
cool.
Yeah.
So get recut, removing silence can do that automatically for you. I've wondered if it's worth, especially if it's a coding tutorial and there's no, well, I mean that's dangerous too, because then if there's silence but you're still coding, you don't want to get
Yeah.
rid of those. So yeah, it's
Well, you just
tough.
got to get a loud keyboard. Just a loud. No, for me, the
As
way
loud as you can go.
I teach, I'm mostly talking the whole time. Like
Yeah.
if I'm teaching something, I'm talking, or if I'm coding, I'm talking
Yeah.
because I don't shut up. That's just
Yep.
how it is.
And
Yeah.
I think that's what most of it is, because you want to explain as you're doing it. But there certainly are like probably a second or two here and there in my stuff that I would not want to be cut out.
Yeah.
Or something else I was gonna. Oh, have you seen? Oh gosh, what is it? Is it Remotion? Have you seen that?
The React motion graphics thing. Remotion. Is that what it
Yeah,
is?
from Johnny
No.
Berger on GitHub. This is to create videos in React.
Yeah, which is actually something that I've started building myself like 8 or 9 times because I'm like, I do all these video intros and like all of my videos have the intro and the things are already coded
Yeah,
in SVG.
right.
And I was like, it'd be really pretty simple to put in,
Mm-hmm.
even if you just use Framer Motion to make some sort of like a tween timeline editor or something for this. No, this thing's fantastic. I have not used it, but I'm really looking to get into this because this is right up my alley.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend who has an audio plugin company, Good Hertz, HERTZ. Fantastic stuff, like the best stuff on the planet. I'll post a link to that. But
Yeah.
they do all these really neat motion graphics, and they write it all in Python. And I'm just thinking, like, man, I would love a programmatic interface for doing motion graphics in it. And so Remotion definitely seems like something I need to get into.
Yeah, I took a look and followed like the getting started and downloaded the tutorial or downloaded the sample project and tweaked it a little bit. I think some of the physics stuff was a little, I just didn't quite resonate with me. So I've got a little bit of learning to see how it all fits together. But I love the idea of that too. And fun fact, I forget what the date is. And Johnny has asked me to send him the calendar invite, but he will be coming on the stream in the next month or so to talk about this.
I'll be watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
I'm very interested in this. I do all of my motion graphics through an application called Principle from Mac,
Hmm.
which is a prototyping software. And I messaged the dev and I was like, this is really great, but I would love to use this as an After Effects, like a sketch for After Effects kind of deal. And he was like, "Oh yeah, hey, I'll just add 4K output for you." And he added like video exporting.
Oh
So
wow,
yeah, I export everything from 4K directly from this like prototyping software. I
nice.
import from a Figma artboard. It drops it in. I just yeah, it takes me like
Oh
5 minutes.
cool.
It's
Do
just
you
really
have
easy.
do you have a video on that? Have you recorded any content on that?
You bet I have.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'll post it in the links.
Yeah, throw that in there, and
It's on
I'll
YouTube.
go and watch that later. Yeah,
Yeah, I
because
really, really like the software. It's very nice and easy, and it integrates with Sketch or Figma to the point where you just one click import.
sweet,
Then you duplicate your frame as an in and out. You say, here's the starting point, here's the ending point, and you can just drag something
boom,
here. Zoop, Tweens has all the
cool.
built-in easing patterns and all the stuff you might want there.
That's great. I love it. I know. I think at one point either you had mentioned it to me or I had heard you talk about it, and I had looked at Principle, and I just didn't quite know what I would do with it yet. So watching that video, I think would be a great example for me.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm using it for how most people use it, but I really like it.
But you have your own special way of using it.
hmm
That's all
Yeah,
that matters.
I'll post
Looks
those
like
links here.
Swarlow's dropping off. See you, Swarlow. And we are right at or a little bit over an hour, so we can probably start thinking about wrapping up. Just let me throw a couple of links in here just in case. I imagine people know where these are. But level up tutorials or level up tuts. Throw that one in there.
Hey.
There is a command for guest for your Twitter handle. There that is.
Ooh.
And on leveluptutorials.com, if you scroll, I think it's just on the homepage. If you scroll all-ish the way down, there is the Discord. So near the bottom is the link to Discord if you're not already in there. So
Yeah,
make
and
sure
if you
to
like, if you have an account, there'll be like a little alert box that says, "Hey, join the chat room."
get on it. Um, I did have maybe one question as we wrap up. What has been your favorite course, or what's been the most exciting course that you've done in the last year or so?
Ooh. You know what? The most exciting one I've done has been the latest one, the node authentication one.
Mm,
So the course that's coming out on Monday is called Node Fundamentals Authentication. And the reason why is that like I I felt so just in the zone with like what the content was trying to do and what are the pitfalls. Again, I had just written so much code around
yeah,
it and I had so much code ready for it that to me it was just like it was really dialed in. But in terms of like the code or the course that has gotten the most um, props from other people, or the code that other people have told me has been their favorite of this year, has been one of my favorites as well. And it was the modern CSS design systems. And
mm,
it's a course that we did that was basically for the same reason. We rewrote our CSS without changing the visual aesthetic of our website.
hmm,
So we were able to see, like, again, all the pitfalls that you might encounter, but we did it all using CSS variables specifically. So no SAS variables, whatever, just only CSS variables as the main method
that's
of
great. Yeah,
styling the site. And what it's led to is it's led to the ability to have a full theme version of our site. So we created a whole bunch of themes. For instance, if you're a pro, you get access to all these themes. Like we have the syntax theme, and the syntax theme is basically the syntax website, but in level up tutorials. So we're able to do like a full theming engine, almost like a VS Code theme type of thing, just by changing like 3 or 4 CSS variables, and it's unreal. So we basically teach how we did that and how to create your own design system there. It's called Modern CSS Design Systems. It's really super neat, and yeah, that's been my favorite.
that's really cool. I had forgotten. I think I knew this at some point, and I'm looking at this, looking at it again inside of my profile. So now I'm checking out syntax theme, which I also have the level up tuts. So one thing I haven't shown you is there's a redemption in Twitch to change my theme in VS Code, like choose a random one.
Ooh.
And so level up tuts and the syntax version are both options. So it kind of cycles through random ones and then picks one.
I've been
Yeah, this is
only
super
using
cool.
that syntax.
Really?
The level up syntax remix has been like my favorite color scheme in the whole world.
Yeah,
Really, yeah.
that's cool. Yeah, it works out really, really nice. And I just changed mine to syntax on level up Tuts. This is cool. Um,
Nice.
so I will be ready for the authentication stuff on Monday. I also had watched, I don't know how far, maybe halfway through, maybe not quite, of the design. The design system was one too. So maybe I'll go back and watch more of that one too.
Neat. Yeah, yeah. It's pretty cool.
Uh, Chris said that he was trying to save up points to redeem 5 push-ups, which is one of my redemptions as well. So we'll save that for the next one. Chris, it looks like Chris is online. Chris, are you streaming? I don't. He probably did this on purpose, so we'll raid over to him. But if you are on, which it looks like you are, we'll raid on over to Chris Sev's channel. Wait, no, I'm not. Why does your thing? It's okay. You're not. Well, never mind. Because this is something I totally would, like if I was starting a stream, I totally would get on someone else's so that they can be thinking of me while they're ready to raid someone. All right. Anyway, we'll raid over to. I don't know why it's showing me an icon for you. We'll raid over to Clarkio, Brian Clark from Microsoft. He always has basically a time slot after me on Friday, so we send him a bunch of people every time, and he's got a great stream. Scott, thanks for hanging out, man. I appreciate it. This has been a hell of a lot of fun. Thank you, everyone in chat. And I'm going to raid over before Chris gets enough points to make me do push-ups.
Thanks so much for having me, James. It's always literally anytime. Just hit me. I'm around.
All right, tomorrow. No, we'll find more times to do stuff together. All right, see you all later.
Peace.
Oh, actually, I was hoping you were going to do that. All right, I think they are rated over. And let me